This video is my reaction to the Lions' 30-17 loss on the road to a Kansas City Chiefs team that's clearly on the upswing. They've evened their record at 3-3 at this point. I know Detroit did have 3 sacks on the night officially. Generally, Patrick Mahomes was kept clean in the pocket. I think that's an earmark, or a hallmark, I should say, of their team when they're playing well. Not that much pressure on a lot of the throws by Mahomes. And in fact, I thought he was able to diagnose the coverage pretty quickly, get the ball out quick oftentimes. Their offensive line, the heavily schemed up passing game, it really abused Detroit's defense for almost the entire night in what ended up being a 30-17 win. A number of things are frustrating for me, to be honest with you. Travis Kelce was untouched. It's another game where it's just unfathomable to me. It's almost like the complete opposite of what you need to do. And in fact, how Detroit has defended tight ends for much of 2025. Kelce just had so many free releases, including on third downs. Very frustrating for me. Mahomes clearly ended up taking advantage of a secondary that was missing, DJ Reed, Terrion Arnold. Kirby Joseph went out once during the game before returning. Didn't really have real chances to stop them on some of their touchdown drives. In fact, I think 2 of Kansas City's touchdown drives, they don't even face a single third down. They did end up averaging, I think, only 5.7 yards per play after the kneel downs. They finished it off with a late field goal to make it 30-17. Detroit's offense short-circuited after the opening 2 possessions, to be honest with you. Jared Goff, I know he finished. Goff only finished, I think, 23 of 29, so only 6 incompletions, but just 203 yards. He was only sacked once on the night. The run game, which was initially promising on the first 2 possessions, got stifled after halftime. In fact, I think Montgomery and Gibbs only have 4 carries in the second half. I could be wrong there. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a quiet night. The critical drop, right, on the 4th down in the second quarter. Detroit has a 10-6 lead. Dan Campbell wants to get ahead because, the Chiefs have the opportunity to double up. So I think the pass was lower than expected, or lower than you would want, but Goff may have, delivered it there intentionally because of the coverage. I think it was McDuffie. St. Brown can catch that ball. It has to go down as a drop, I'm pretty sure. He also had the fumble in the 4th quarter when the Lions held the football down 27-17 and were forced to punt. There's a lot of things that went wrong after the opening 2 possessions for the offense for Detroit. I do think that you've got to give credit to the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I will obviously talk about the touchdown that was negated by penalty, perhaps even called in from New York, which would be super frustrating if you ask me, as for any NFL fan, let alone a Lions fan, in my opinion. If the league gets to call in, and I don't know that this is true, but the length of time before we saw a flag get thrown kind of leads me to believe that it was. And I could be way off base here, so feel free to let me know. I don't get the chance to watch press conferences or those things. I'm guessing that Dan Campbell at some point, either Sunday or Monday, will address it. John Morton had the run game ready to roll initially, right? They were in control up to halftime in terms of running the football. 19 carries for 93 yards. Gibbs and Montgomery effective, right? And then absolutely phased out, inconsequential in the 3rd and 4th quarter. I believe 4 carries total. Detroit finishes 23 carries for 98 yards. Kansas City did what they always do against a quality opponent. I'm talking about their defense. Stop or slow down the run game just enough to disrupt your play calling. And then also get important third down stops. Yes, they have to get some favorable calls. It seems like almost every game, or in their case, they don't get any, or one penalty, I guess, on Chris Jones for jumping offside later. It's like, you have to call that one. It was as obvious as the day is bright. The Chiefs didn't get a single penalty called on them up to that point. Very similar dynamic to when the Ravens lost to Kansas City in the 2023 AFC Championship game. Every penalty is costly for your defense and your team, and Kansas City occasionally will get called for one, usually when the game is no longer in doubt. The trick play has to be discussed. Detroit could have gone up 7-0 on their first possession. I think it's a brilliant play call. I really do. It builds off the Wildcat touchdown pass from Montgomery to Wright last week against the Bengals on the road. The rule, as I understand it, is you can't be under center and then have the ball snapped while you're in motion. I don't think Goff was under center. He appeared to me to tap the center's left hip. I don't know if that officially constitutes being under center. I don't know what the technical definition actually is. He stood there behind the center. To me, if you had asked me before the game and right now, under center means being ready and available to take a snap from the center. Goff never was. Goff was standing there almost upright, moves out to his left, taps the center's left hip. From what I saw, his motion I thought was clearly legal from the standpoint of not going forward. I actually think he veered backwards a little bit. Uh, Unlike the Kansas City Chiefs tight end, who was kind of going forward on his motion on the first touchdown to Worthy. But I digress a little bit. Mahomes plays error-free football. That's been, the Chiefs' standard in these games that they win against big-time opponents, quality teams like the Lions. They had stellar pass blocking for the most part tonight. And nobody, like I said, touches Travis Kelce until you do, and you're penalized. It's almost an unfair game at times. When it almost feels unfair, I should say, when you're facing the Chiefs. And they don't need a lot of help, right? Even though it appears that if they oftentimes get it. Detroit only penalized 4 times overall. Kansas City 1. Kansas City, I think, came into the game with 42 penalties through 5 games in their 2-3 start, including 13 last week against Jacksonville. Not one until tonight, when Chris Jones obviously jumped off sides with about 2:30 left, somewhere in that range. So read into that what you will. My own thoughts are quite obvious. I think the Chiefs get a ton of favor from the officials. That's my direct, to-the-point assessment of it and watching the games. I don't think the Lions got cheated. It's just oftentimes that questionable calls, well, not even questionable calls. Travis Kelce clearly did not catch that ball in the third quarter. Replay assist, if it can address anything, shouldn't it address things like that? Meaning, obviously the ball hits the ground. He doesn't have control. They hurry up to the line, somehow get the Lions get a penalty because I guess they're trying to sub while Kansas City is going hurry up. So I don't know that was a good decision by the Lions to do that. But it is kind of hilarious and questionable to me that a global billion-dollar product has advertised replay assist and they can't get anything done before the ball gets to snap, yet they can throw a penalty like 75 seconds after the Lions are awarded a touchdown on their first drive. So I think I've addressed that issue enough, and I will tell you some things that I think about the Chiefs' defense. That front office, their defensive coaching staff, is as good as it gets. Their brand of defense has carried them for 3 years. Now, Kansas City's getting their offense going, which, of course, makes them a real pain to deal with. Their offense has scored, 30 points plus in 3 straight games. Well, actually 28 last week against Jacksonville, but playing a much more high-quality, consistent brand of offense in the last 3 weeks against the Ravens, Jaguars, and then now the Lions. But Spagnuolo knows what he's doing. They've got a ton of young defensive talent over there. They play smart. They play really fast. They cover well. When have you ever seen St. Brown get 9 catches for only 45 yards? And they tackle probably better than any team in the NFL consistently. I mean, out in space, they take on blocks extremely aggressively. They're incredibly well prepared on defense. I have to admit that. I do not like the Kansas City Chiefs at all, but they play on defense with a high degree of intensity. They finish plays, and the offense benefits from that cumulative effect that Spagnuolo's defense has over the course of the game, or at least they did tonight, right? Here, check this out. The Lions generated, 132 yards on their first 2 drives, right? Field goal, touchdown to take a 10-6 lead. Then on their next 6 possessions, only 166 yards overall. Yards per play, way down on those 6 drives. Simply put, Kansas City, people won't want to hear this, and I don't really like it either, but they have a Super Bowl-worthy defense that plays really smart football in big moments, and they're in position to stop as many things as possible. They did so tonight. Detroit only 98 rushing yards, did finish at 5.6 yards per play overall, which that does look good. And Detroit was 5 of 11 on third down, but 0 for 2 on fourth downs. They didn't turn the football over. Goff was only sacked once, still only able to generate 17 points, including a single touchdown on their final 6 drives. Kansas City's defense is a real pain. They're for real. They're versatile and capable. To me, stats being whatever they were coming into this game, when it counts, they play with a ton of speed and quickness. Like I said, they limited St. Brown to 45 yards on 9 catches. I Coming in, I was hoping, okay, this is a night that St. Brown goes 10, 11 catches for 135 and 2 touchdowns and really shows the world that he's one of the best players in the world. I still think he is, but they held him down. The pass game was limited at the same time that Goff, on 29 attempts, only threw for 203 yards. They also held the run game to less than 100. That's important. You have to give credit, if you ask me. At least I do. Every time I witness a Spagnuolo defense do these things, it's just another example of his impact, the coaching staff, how they appear to be so prepared. And they have a collection of young talent that just, has been built through the draft for the most part. Their 2022 draft was really ridiculous. You didn't just get Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round. I'm more so focusing on the defensive side, right? Guys that make plays consistently. McDuffie, Chenal, and Karlaftis. They all came from that draft. Also, Brian Cook, the safety, who had at least 2 really nice tackles tonight. He was in the same draft, 2022. Joshua Williams is a corner that's a sometimes starter, and Jalen Watson as well. They tackle really well. Their offense puts up 30 points. And I think they're really facing almost a compromised Detroit defense, missing so many DBs and Ali McNeil, who's set to return soon. I know it's a disappointing loss for the Lions after coming out on fire offensively, right? Field goal touchdown, like I said, to take a 10-6 lead. But in reality, the defense was just not able to stop much of anything. They did get a third-quarter stop that led to Sam Laporta's insane 4-yard touchdown catch in the back of the end zone, recall, to close within 20-17. But look, Kansas City goes right downfield. They didn't face a single third down in doing so. It's a 9-play, 69-yard drive, the one to put them up 27-17. And to me, it just illustrates that the Lions just could not really do much on defense. Guys competed, don't get me wrong. They played hard. I thought I saw Anzalone and Barnes do a nice job a few times of going outside to force Mahomes, to either throw the ball or run out of bounds. But the reality is Kansas City had 26 first downs for the second week in a row. That's a season high, right? Matches their output in last week's 31-28 loss to the Jags. And the Chiefs had 9 possessions officially, one of which was to complete the second quarter with a kneel down, right? Take a 13-10 lead at the half. And then you have the victory formation to finish the game. So in totality, 9 possessions where Kansas City's trying to score, and they go touchdown, turnover on downs, touchdown, touchdown, punt, touchdown, field goal. 4 touchdowns, 1 field goal on 7 drives where they're trying to score. Detroit's defense was at a severe deficit. They just were. With the guys that they had in the secondary tonight, I think that, that's obvious. So that impacts the calls that Kelvin Shepard would feel comfortable choosing or selecting. And I think it also shows up in that Mahomes was, I think, 23 of 30 or 22 of 30 passing for 257. Now, Hutchinson did have the strip sack when he was matched up against the tight end. Muhammad also added one later. I think Mahomes is trying to step up pretty quickly in the pocket, and Muhammad folds back inside. The other one, I believe, was Jack Campbell kind of chasing Mahomes down on a scramble and tackling him behind the line of scrimmage for a sack. I don't mean to minimize the 3 sacks, but you are more than welcome to let me know in the comment section. Did you feel like there was a lot of pressure on Mahomes tonight? It didn't seem like it to me. He was either getting the ball out fast to his wide receivers or tight ends, oftentimes who were getting free releases, or he was able to move around in the pocket a little bit, scramble sometimes. I know he only ended up with 32 yards, I think, on 10 carries, but 3 of those, I believe, are kneel downs at the end of the game. Do I think that the Lions defense can play better than this? Yes, I do, especially when more of the starting secondary is out there. At least for tonight, the efficiency can be illustrated for Kansas City. The efficiency can be illustrated like this. It's not a winnable situation when Kelsey goes 6 of 7 catches to targets. Juju is 3 of 3, and Hollywood Brown is 4 of 4, including 2 touchdowns. The Lions got beat early on that extremely familiar play. Kansas City's opening possession, the fourth down touchdown to Worthy, who's a really talented player, don't get me wrong, but Kansas City, they're the kings of the pick or rub concepts. I've said for years that when it matters, they're a right-handed football team, and they sure enough were on the first 3 important or critical 3rd and 4th downs. That one disappointing for me, that Detroit wasn't put in a better position by call once they saw the formation, the way that Juju lined up really close to Worthy. It's the same exact call that they used to get a touchdown to Travis Kelce last week, and the same exact call they used on a 4th and 2 on the first possession of the Ravens against the Ravens 3 weeks ago. I was a little shocked with the level of physicality in the game, meaning Detroit kind of opened up and slugged it out with Kansas City's defense early. And it looked to me like on the first 2 drives, Kansas City's D-line was a little bit gassed, a little bit tired. But that totally switched at some point during the game. Maybe it was after the 4th down drop or incomplete pass to St. Brown, however you want to describe it. Oftentimes in these types of games, the Lions are able to wear people down, and that didn't occur. They still hung around. Opportunities to make it closer, right? It was 20-17 in the 4th quarter after the touchdown to Laporta. The drop by St. Brown, uncharacteristic, unfortunate, especially unfortunate, meaning it occurred near midfield, right? It's a 4th down drop, so you give the other team the ball late in the second quarter. I think like 2:40 left in the second quarter. So it allows Kansas City a great opportunity to double up, which is a terrible outcome, right? The touchdown for the Chiefs, they finished the half at 13-10, and then they have one to open the third quarter. Oh, by the way, it's 9 plays, 81 yards there to go up 20-10, and didn't face a single third down in that possession either. I get it that this won't be popular, but in my opinion, Detroit's defense needs some talent. At a key position, an impact position. Aleem McNeil coming back will help. If and when DJ Reed, Terron Arnold return, that'll clearly be a big boost. I've said it a couple times recently. I'm going to say it again. I'm not trying to pile on to a loss because missing Reed and Arnold, injuries to Kirby and Branch coming in, big factors. But I stand by it. There's just too many times. If you ask me, Mahomes is standing still. Now, Hutchinson does have 6 sacks on the year. He's got 4 forced fumbles. So an insane, really beginning or opening to the season for him, especially when you consider 3 of his sacks have been wiped out by penalties, right? I just did not see a defense that looked capable of shutting down this Kansas City offense. One that was generating yards for most of the night. They had 4 touchdowns and 1 field goal in the 7 possessions where they were trying to score. Reed, Arnold, McNeil, if they return, of course they would help. Selfishly, I want Detroit to use some of their cap space for this season and try to find the right guy to help the defense get better. Make the margin for error, widen the margin for error. I get it, Muhammad's playing well. I think he's got 4.5 sacks now. Hutchinson's a game wrecker. The safeties are as good as it gets in the NFL, but you're going to need a far better defense to beat teams like the Chiefs for all of their faults, in my opinion. But in any case, I'll talk about the halftime situation, then maybe go over the first and the 6th possession for Detroit. That's the possession to go up 3-0 on the first drive, and then to get within 20-17 in the second half. Chiefs had a 13-10 lead at halftime. Offense really had not been stopped to that point. Touchdown. There was that great play by Thomas Harper, who was in place of Kirby Joseph on their second possession. That was the difference, right? That was the downs, stopping them on downs, turnover on downs. These are my notes at halftime. I just read them out. You can trust that what I wrote or not. That's up to you. I put down that I think Detroit's offense is going to have to be perfect in the second half. They were close in the first half, but the 4th and 2 incompletion to St. Brown looms large. It allowed Kansas City to take a 13-10 lead, and then with less than a minute left in the half, really didn't leave the Lions much opportunity to go down and do anything. They needed that conversion. They were up 10-6. If you really wanted to take control of the game, needed that conversion there. Maybe go down and take a 17-6 lead and only allow the Chiefs to get possession late in the first half and or in the third quarter an opportunity to score. Maybe then you're talking about a different outcome. Goff was sharp. 2 really tight window throws in the first half. You had the 22-yard touchdown to Jameson Williams that puts him up 10-6, like maybe 3 minutes into the second quarter. That one was kind of like around an inside linebacker or second-level dropper. Very similar to the 26-yarder to Laporta. That was like just outside of Bolton's reach in the middle of the field. Both of those look like similar concepts to me. Goff, I think, at the half was 9 of 12 passing, but only 93 yards. And so he had those 2 throws to Williams and Laporta for 48 yards in total. The other 10 passes, I think, only generated like 45 or 47 yards, somewhere in that range. The Chiefs' defense got scalded early. 15 play, 61-yard drive, over 10 minutes for Detroit. Great job by Morton of designing things. Just couldn't get in the end zone. Well, they did get in the end zone. St. Brown actually pancaked, I think it's McDuffie. The refs huddled for so long. Let's review that possession actually briefly, because the play that I really, really enjoyed to see was the 3rd and 2 run concept to Gibbs. I think it's the 6th play down for you guys. I actually missed a couple of plays here first. Got my stream started late. Because they're willing to run the ball down here because they know they'll go for it on 4th down. Meaning the 3rd and 2 from the 22, Trey Wright under center from 12 personnel, Gibbs duo downhill, converts for 3 yards, and then Gibbs with another run concept following the motion for 7 yards. I thought they were going to punch this in with the run game, to be honest with you. Fortunate timeout on the first 4th and goal attempted because it was well covered by the Chiefs. And then an amazing call, and whether it counted or should have counted or not, I get it. Some people will have different opinions, but for me, I feel like that's not under center, unless or until Goff actually gets under center and he can take the snap. But I don't know what the rules say, so I could obviously be off there. They had to settle for a field goal after the delay. It certainly seems to me, given the amount of time that it took, that the refs received a call from somewhere. I don't know that to be true or at all. I don't know the rule. It's a brilliant play call that builds off of last week's touchdown pass from a Wildcat formation. You feel free to let me know in the comment section what, if anything, was said after the game. To me, if you're not going under center, so you can take cadence and or take the snap, you're not actually under center, but maybe there needs to be some more clarity about it. Second drive, Detroit actually did get a touchdown. So 21 plays, 132 yards, first 2 drives. Pretty efficient with the run game. Goff having time to throw. Just could not stop the Chiefs in the first half. Other than that pass defense by Harper, I think it was on Worthy. Mahomes was 10 of 14 passing in the first half. 134 yards, 133, something like that. The touchdown to Worthy, disappointing because it's a predictable play call. Pick rub concept. Worthy immediately goes to the flats instead of stepping upfield, so Robertson can't get his hands on him. Same exact play they used against the Ravens on the first possession 3 weeks ago. Same exact play they used for a touchdown against the Jags last week, albeit it was Travis Kelce, like I said earlier. Chiefs are averaging 5.9 yards per play, converted 2 of 3 4th downs in the first half. Run game kind of slowed down, only 11 carries, 38 yards. The Lions' big chance for momentum, changing play was the strip sack by Hutchinson. Like 8 minutes left, maybe 8:20 left in the second quarter. The Chiefs actually do end up getting stopped there. It's the Harper pass defense. If you recall, there was a 3rd and 18 after the Hutchinson strip sack where they screen you to Juju. He gets 17 yards or maybe 16, and then you have the pass intended for Worthy that's a PD that's swatted away by Harper. Man, that strip sack from Hutchinson, as it's knocked out of his Mahomes' hands, the first thing I'm thinking is somebody's going to pick it up and take off. And so I was really hoping for, I'm sure you guys were too, tremendous opportunity there. The Lions' run game on offense, 93 yards in the first half, shut down thereafter, or really not much opportunities. If I did my math right, only 4 carries. The safety for the Chiefs, Connor, I think it is, had 10 tackles in the first half, finished with 14. I thought Chenal and Bolton played extremely well. Brian Cook tackled. I mean, he seems like it's a 100% tackler. That failed 4th down pass from Goff to St. Brown allowed Kansas City to double up over a 3-possession span. At that same 3-possession span where Kansas City takes a 20-10 lead, turns a 10-6 deficit into a 20-10 lead, the Lions go downs, the drop incomplete to St. Brown on the 4th down play, then a punt, then another punt to open the third quarter. By the time they get the ball back, it's 20-17. That was the difference. Margin for error, a lot smaller tonight, obviously, than some other games. I think Kansas City looks, extremely dangerous. They seem like they're figuring things out offensively. I would love to sit here and say that I think they look really vulnerable, but as long as they have that defense that can sit back there and play super smart, brilliant from a 4-3 personnel standpoint or a nickel 4-2, they can move McDuffie around wherever they want. Those guys have been there and done that. The Lions' offense early on in control just could not keep up that pace. And the defense, really I thought was overmatched for most of the night. You're more than welcome to let me know if you think I'm missing any elements from this game. I thought Detroit early was playing their game, being more physical and taking it to the Chiefs, especially in the run game. Just couldn't keep that up. And unfortunately, that really caught up with them because their defense ended up being on the field a lot more than you would have liked. They really kind of flipped the dynamic, they being the Chiefs. I mean, Detroit's been the more physical squad and forced teams to defend more plays tonight. Kansas City had 62 plays. Detroit only had 53. Detroit didn't even get to 300 yards of total offense. Ultimately, despite what I think at this point in time, and I could be wrong, I could be proven wrong quickly, what I think is a mistake on the play call, the penalty to Jared Goff, still, Detroit is held to less than 300 yards. Kansas City's defense impacts what you do. They're very smart and versatile. They have hyper-active and hyper-aware football players on the defensive side, a whole bunch of them. And even if one or two guys are out in a given week, they have the ability to replace them because of their depth and how well they've drafted on the defensive side. In any case, this is my reaction video to Detroit's 30-17 loss. I really thought things were going to be different, particularly even up to halftime. When it was 13-10, I thought Detroit's defense could possibly get a stop and help them to jump ahead, but to no avail. Kelvin Shepard really fighting uphill battle without all those DBs and still no Aleem McNeil. Appreciate you guys' time, man. Let me know what you think of the video and my reaction in the comment section. If you think I missed any elements, you're more than welcome to mention them. Again, I admit that I could be way off base with my reaction and understanding of the penalty, the flow of it, but for it to come so late and no penalty to be thrown on the field, it certainly seems like to me a situation where it almost reminds me of WWE, where they can call in a penalty as they wish, which is really disappointing. Appreciate you guys' time.